You got your phones, put them on silent or whatever. I'd like to call to order special called council meeting for August 31st, 2020, Sebastian City Council. Would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Where's the flag? Face this way. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
I apologize, Mayor. We have moved it upstairs to a conference meeting for another meeting, and it didn't get moved back down here. I do apologize for that.
Thank you, Barbara. All right, so the roll call, please.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes, here.
Vice Mayor Motti?
Present.
Councilmember Gilliams?
Here.
Councilmember Hill is on Zoom.
Here.
Councilmember Paris?
Here.
She's on Zoom too. Thank you.
All right, Council, this is a special meeting of the City Council. It was called by the Vice Mayor. I'd like to make a note before we start. There's another meeting scheduled in this chamber at 6 o'clock, so we have a time limit on us this evening we have to try to deal with. I'd ask that we keep our comments as brief as possible so we can do that. Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd like to introduce your issue, please.
My issues have to do with the recall election and the expenditure of the $40,000. And I had several questions for the city manager. I'll be brief, and I think we can be out of here in a short period of time.
Okay. Is your mic on, sir? Yeah? Can you hear me now? I can hear you. Try it again. See, Ms. Vice Mayor, try again through the mic. See if you...
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay, they got you now.
Did anybody hear what I said originally?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I just have a few questions for the mayor on the expenditure of the $40,000 for the recall election. I'm going to be brief and quick. I think, I'm sorry, not the mayor, the city manager. I think he can answer these questions and put my concerns to rest. So, if Mr. Carlisle, if you're ready, I've got a few questions.
Sure.
Okay. You and I had a discussion over the weekend via email, and you sent me some documentation on the recall and the expenditure of the $40,000 that it was expended under the COVID-19 emergency. Am I correct?
That's part of it.
Okay. And in that it says, when we read that, it says for the procurement of supplies, equipment, and services without formal bidding. So there was no need for a formal bid or coming before the council to expend that $40,000. Am I correct?
That is part of it. There's additional information as well.
Okay. What is that additional information, sir?
So, and I'll let the lawyer, Mr. Annan, chime in too. We also have a contract with the supervisor of elections that outlines the fees for special elections and allows us, and in most contracts, once the contract's awarded, and this was awarded in January of 2020, allows us to expend the funds based on the terms and conditions of that contract without coming back to council. Number two was the goods and services under the declaration. And third, the recall statute, in my understanding, also circumvents any laws, ordinances, or charter rules by a municipality in order to carry out that special election. So those were some of the things that I was relying on and able to expend those funds to move this election forward. And as I mentioned, also the court order from the chief judge.
Okay, so in that, when I look at the early voting E, it says the SOE is not required to conduct early voting for municipal elections that are not held in conjunction with state and federal elections. The responsibility of the municipality listed below under section E1 and the responsibility of SOE listed under section E2F are applicable if the municipality agrees to offer early voting to pay for costs, et cetera, et cetera. When I read this, I did not see anything about special elections. I did see you're voting for early elections. So how does a recall fall into that if it's not a separate agenda item?
Under Section 3, election fees for municipal elections, there's a fee on page 4. Municipal elections are not held in conjunction with the county or state elections. It's $2 per registered voter based on one card ballot. Every additional card is 35% per voter. So that's the fees for that. And if we have 19,000 and some odd registered voters, that's where those funds come from. Those expenditure amounts come from.
So as I look at this, when we discussed this via email, the emergency declaration lists 7 things the city manager can do. Under the declaration, manager can handle personnel reporting, suspension of normal work, procurement of supplies, close public buildings, prevent price gouging, conserve water, cancel city meetings. But it also said, the emergency rules say the manager must report what he has done at the next city council meeting. In my opinion, under that, why from August, early August, when the management or someone decided that you were going to pay these funds, up to the last city council meeting, were we not made aware that these funds were expended when it says that is part of the agreement?
First, I gave you that information because that was just another reason why I could pay it, but the main reason I could pay it without even having to report it back to you all is 100-361 supersedes our charter, our ordinances and purchasing in every policy, and our election contract with the supervisor of election is a contract we have in place, and contracts that we have in place, we don't bring payments back to the council every time we make a payment on a contract. Some of those payments are $300,000. We don't bring that back once that contract's awarded for service. We don't bring those back to the council, those payments.
So there was no need to notify anybody that the $40,000 was expended, so there's no transparency on that, am I correct? Really?
There's transparency on it because the invoices are there, the invoices are to the city, and it follows the statute that for the recall in our contract.
All right.
And I'll let the attorney chime in anytime he wants to, whether I misunderstood that or not, but I don't think I did.
No, I'm not challenging you. I'm just asking some questions.
Okay.
For clarification, some other things have been said about the recall and my resigning. You and I had a discussion with Attorney Anion in your office, and I had suggested that I might be considering resigning. Am I correct?
You did mention that to me.
Okay. And in that discussion, did we not discuss the issue that it might be more beneficial if I stayed on the council for the period so that there would be more consistency in the council meeting and voting, so it wouldn't be a 2-2 vote on any of the issues?
That was a private conversation we had with you regarding the functionality of city council. I don't know what that has to do with paying of the bills.
Yeah, I think
No,
that's...
it doesn't have anything to do with that.
That's an accurate description of our conversation.
I just want to make it clear to the individual that is questioning why I didn't resign, and the reason was that we had a discussion and it was in the best interest that I stayed on, in my opinion.
In my opinion, it would be beneficial if we had a full council to be able to conduct business, and we wouldn't end up with a possible 2-2 vote on items.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Carlisle. I was glad that that was made clear for the reason that I did stay on.
No, that was your choice. I just gave you my opinion.
Right, and I appreciated that opinion. Mr. Yanion, I thank you for your time. I'm not asking for a revote on anything. I just wanted some clarification. I'll ask Mr. Gilliam if there's any questions about what I had to say tonight.
Well, I'm the one that will have to ask that question.
All right, Mr. Mayor Dodd, please do.
Okay. You don't have any issues that you want to bring forward beyond
No, I just wanted some clarification. I'm not saying I want to
Okay.
revote anything or the expenditures. I just need clarification.
Okay.
And I wanted it public.
All right. I don't know if there's any need for any further discussion. I think that you asked for the special meeting and you're satisfied and we've covered your item. So I don't see any need to go any further with this.
I have some questions.
Only if those questions deal with the expenditure of the $40,000.
Absolutely. You can rest assured I have questions, especially it's something that could have been avoided. Do I have the floor, Mr. Mayor?
Actually, Councilmember Gilliams, you do not have the floor if you're going to talk about a one-day delay in the voting, in the presentation.
Mr. Mayor, you're not denying me my right to speak, are you? Be
You
careful now.
I most certainly am. I'm denying your right to speak about a topic that does not fall
You
within
don't
the
know what
line on
I'm
this.
speaking about, sir.
If you have questions about the expenditure of the $40,000, say it.
I have questions about the expenditure of $40,000 that could have been avoided.
Okay, that's not topic for discussion. Thank you.
That is topic for discussion.
Has anybody else got anything else they want to bring up?
Mayor Dodd, I believe that is topic of discussion because in the $40,000, that could have been delayed if we held
Okay,
a
I want to ask,
conversation.
I want to read something. I'm going to interrupt you because I'm just kind of tired of all this stuff. I want to read something to you. This is the statute, the Florida statute 100-361. Under Florida statute 100-361, it specifically lays out the responsibilities of all the parties involved in a recall election. And just so everybody understands, section number 11 of this statute says, it is the intent of the legislature that the recall procedures provided in this act shall be uniform statewide. Therefore, all municipal charter and special law provisions that are contrary to the provisions of this act are hereby repealed to the extent of the conflict. So nothing in our charter or anything in our procedures that's in conflict with this statute has anything to do with what's going on right now. The second thing about this is that this statute uses very specific, clear terms about the responsibilities. This statute says very specifically and clearly that when the petitions are turned into our city clerk, she shall immediately turn those petitions into the supervisor of elections. So if our clerk, and without even making any reference to what Councilmember Gilliams is trying to talk about, if our clerk had held on to those petitions for one day, she would have been in violation of this statute. And we were not going to jeopardize the statute.
I object to that.
So that's what it is. Let's just get down to the chase here and let's cut it right through. The statute is clear, specifically clear. There's nothing this council can do or say that interrupts the statute. There's no conversation that we can have that interrupts the statute. That just happens to be the way it is. We can sit here all day long and play these semantical games, quite frankly, and it's meaningless.
I'm not saying it's semantical. What I'm saying is we could have saved $40,000
No, we
if
could
we
not have
held
saved
it on November
$40,000 because
3rd.
we could not hold it up. It says specifically in the statute that our city clerk is required. Mr. Annon, would you like to respond to that?
Mr. Mayor, you're directing the city attorney according to
Yes,
the charter.
I am directing the city attorney.
You need 3 votes to...
Would you suspend?
Mr. Mayor,
One moment, please. Mr. City Attorney, would you like to respond
Can
to
I
what
get a point of order?
Absolutely
Point of
no.
order?
Yeah, go ahead and make your point of order.
Mr. Mayor, remember, we are all equal up here. You do not have any more power than...
Councilmember Gilliams, I'm the chair of this
Are you
meeting. As the
interrupting
chair
me,
of this
sir?
meeting, I can tell you to be quiet, so please
Sir, I have a
suspend.
point of order on the floor. You accepted my point of order. I'm allowed to bring it to the table.
Would you make your point of order, please?
Okay. You're going to interrupt me?
I probably am. Would you make it?
Tell me when you calm down,
And when you do
sir.
that, would you please tell me exactly what rule I'm breaking? Exactly what rule I'm breaking.
Tell me when you're done.
I'm done.
Mr. Mayor, there's 5 council members up here. You cannot direct the city attorney or city manager or the city clerk under our charter. It's very clear. I got the charter right here.
So are you saying that the...
I have the charter right here. You don't have that right.
All right, are you saying that the
gonna let
vice
me
mayor
speak?
broke our charter
There
when
you
he
go
asked the
again.
city manager
There you go
questions?
again. Tell me when you're done.
I'm done. Mr. Annan, would you like to respond to my comments?
No, he cannot. He needs a direction of 3 council
No, he
members for an
doesn't.
opinion.
I don't even know what the question is, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, Mr. Attorney.
he doesn't.
Okay. There is absolutely
Mayor?
nothing that this city could have done any differently than what they did based on statute 100-361. And we can sit here all day long and bellyache and rehash all we want to do, and it won't change the facts. And the fact is very simple. There is an election on September the 15th. That's the fact.
I have no problem with
Mr.
that.
Mayor, I have
Okay.
a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Were you involved in the discussion about Leslie's letter?
Excuse me?
Were you involved in the discussion about Leslie Swan's letter?
No, I've not seen her letter. I've been told about the pretext, which she said that she would hold a special election under certain conditions and that she would do it on the 15th, on the November 3rd under certain conditions, but I haven't actually seen the letter. Have you seen the letter? Councilmember Paris, have you seen the letter?
Yes.
And where'd you get it?
Where did I get it?
Yeah, where'd you get it?
I
Was it
viewed
distributed to you by the city staff?
I don't recall at this very moment where I viewed it.
Okay, okay. Ladies and gentlemen,
Excuse me.
please. Thank you. All right. I just don't know what kind of discussion we need to have here.
So, Mr. Mayor, am I going to get a chance to speak, or are you going to deny me my right to speak?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't want to mess with your rights.
Good, you're a smart man. So, first and foremost, I'm not against the recall, don't get me wrong. If you feel that you guys have the votes to bring it properly and legally, I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me. What disturbs me is, because I have Mrs. Swan's emails, and I have our clerk's emails as well. And it's very clear in those emails, the city could have saved, if they waited one day, and $40,000. But here's the most important part. Could have saved $40,000. We could have opened the election to all the people that vote in a national election, so we get everybody's input. But instead, we're doing a special election for this special recall group, which they all know about it. And if it's not done properly and advertised properly, then most people won't show up. So it's going to be the special recall group that's going to show up to the 15th. If it happens. It may not happen.
What's
so,
that?
Well, excuse me, sir. Respect me. I respected you. So,
Actually, I don't.
I want the community to know that we're raising your taxes 12%, but yet we're swinging around money, $40,000 here, $500,000 here for a set of blueprints, $8 million for a garage, and it's just very disturbing. $25,000 for a fireworks display that's already over. I mean, it's disturbing how money's being thrown around here. And when I see we could have waited one day and gave this community the opportunity, the whole community, to weigh in. Now it's going to be just a certain group on the 15th if it does happen. So, Mr. Mayor, I did read the letters. I have them. I have them all. So I want to ask the city manager a few questions on his declaration here. So first, Mr. City Manager, you signed the check over to the Supervisor of Elections, correct? You and Ken?
That's correct, an electronic signature.
Correct. And according to these documents, I see there was an invoice. So when did you get the invoice?
Councilmember Hill, do you have a point of order?
Well, I just have a question. Is it okay for Mr. Gilliams to ask questions of the city manager without having three of us agree to the question?
Well, actually, under his philosophy, it's not, but we let the vice mayor do that. So the vice mayor was in violation of the charter as well, so we might as well all be in violation of the charter.
Well, no. This is a document. Excuse me, Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill, do you have a point of order?
Thank you.
Mr. Hill, I have the floor. Let me
Councilmember
finish.
Gilliams.
You're purposely distracting me.
Councilmember Gilliams, would you please
I just
sustain?
want to understand how this all went down, because I see that it was billed very quickly, and I wanted to ask the city manager, before he went ahead and wrote that check out, did he consult with anybody on the council, mayor?
No.
Nobody?
Just me and Jeanette spoke about it when she brought me the invoice.
Did you check with the city attorney as to what you were doing?
We talked about briefly about the cost of it.
Yeah.
Didn't go into any more detail than that.
Were you aware that the one day would have saved the city $40,000?
That has nothing to do with this invoice.
I understand that. Were you aware of that?
I don't have any control over that.
But you were aware of it?
I was aware there was a letter from Leslie Swan asking if the recall group could wait, but we don't have any control over that process.
Yeah, I understand that, but the clerk does. She couldn't delay it a day. It's all depending on how the statute's interpreted. A day wouldn't have made a difference. Plus, you denied the rights for everybody on a national election to come out and vote on this. But that's okay. That's all right.
Unfortunately, I didn't deny anybody. I follow the statute.
Okay, so let me proceed.
So that allegation is wrong, sir.
Okay, so let me proceed. Was there a reason why this expense, normally in the past, you would put these expenses on the following according to our charter, you would notice us at the next meeting about these expenses under the declaration, correct?
Not these invoices. This is a contract, fulfilling a contract obligation. We don't put those typically on there. When I talked to the vice mayor, When I mentioned to him about the contract and the judge's order, he goes, well, that isn't good enough. And I said, well, also we have this. Doesn't fall under that emergency order per se. This falls under following the statute. This also falls under our agreement with Lynn Swan, and it also falls under the judge's order.
Gotcha.
I have no choice but to pay it.
I understand that.
And it's not an invoice where I go, okay, I went out and I got quotes and I have to bring it to council. This is fulfilling the obligations of the
let's just get
contract.
past the 40,000 that we could have saved. Let's talk about your emergency declaration and the fact that it was over 25,000 and under the charter rules and under the finance rules that you don't have the authorization to sign off on something that's more than 25,000 unless it comes to city council. So with that being said, you were operating under the declaration, correct?
I'm operating under our agreement, the judge's order, the agreement with Leslie Swan.
I'm quite aware of that.
The judge's order.
Right.
That we have to have the election.
Right.
And the contract that we have. So those are the parameters.
Why is the declaration in our packet today then?
Because I was asked what other reasons I may have had to do it. I said, well, there's
So that
another
is-
reason that I could have done it.
So
that
that
isn't
is-
the reason that we did it, but that is one reason why I could have paid it. But that's not the reason why. The main reason why is I have a contractual obligation with the supervisor of elections, I have a judge's order, and I have a state statute that supersedes all of our ordinances, resolutions, and charter, which includes our purchasing policy.
So
I follow the law.
you're supposed to follow the charter as well.
The charter is overruled by statute 100-361, subsection 11.
That's in your opinion, okay? I'm not here to...
That's the legal advice of our attorney's opinion.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't need to go there. So there's nowhere in this charter that says that you have the authority. This is not part of the virus COVID-19 emergency. So you felt that you had the authority under those other provisions in the
That's
statute.
correct.
Mm-hmm, okay. And you felt that asking since you were talking to the clerk, that waiting one day, how would that affected the...
This has nothing to do with the date. The election date was already set. This had nothing to do with setting the date of the election. This paid the invoice that Leslie Swan sent to us. This did not set the date for election. That was already done.
And you didn't think it was necessary to go ahead and send us a report in the last August 26th meeting like you normally do? Was there a reason not to mention that to us?
No, it didn't. It's not required under this contract.
I know that, but some of the other provisions and the other agenda packages, that other things that you signed off on that you expended money, were also contracts that...
No, they were contracts that were being approved that needed to be funded. They weren't already approved. These contracts are already approved.
You were in such a hurry, or the clerk was in such a hurry, you didn't spell my name correctly according to the qualifying papers I filed with the city. Did you know that?
I don't know what that's on this invoice, sir, that I paid. That's what we're here to talk about.
Well, you were in a hurry to pay the bill to the clerk, the supervisor of elections, and in such a hurry, we're paying $40,000 to do a ballot correctly. I don't know if the clerk is aware, there's 2 Damian Gilliams in this town. I don't know if she's aware of that. I have Damian H. Gilliams on my qualifying papers. Now, we're paying $40,000 for them to do it correctly. Does the clerk want to elaborate on that?
On which qualifying papers are you talking about?
She knows the papers that I have filed up there for the last election, and it says it's qualifying Damian H. Gilliams. I made that very clear because there are 2 Damian Gilliamses in this community, and it's a confusion. It's sending a wrong message, and we paid $40,000 to make. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Which qualifying election are you talking about?
Sir, I'm an elected duly official.
I know exactly what you are.
I have.
Ladies and
papers-
gentlemen, please.
I have.
I know exactly
papers
what
already
you are.
filed.
I'm trying to get a clarification on a statement. Which
Well,
qualifying
maybe the clerk
election
can
are you
answer that
talking about?
Maybe she can answer
I'm not
that
asking
question.
the clerk. I'm asking you. Which qualifying election are you talking about? Which qualifying papers are you talking about? Are you talking about qualifying papers for the special election? Talking about qualifying papers for 2019 election?
I'm talking about what put me here today.
Is that
2019,
And that's 2019.
that's correct.
So what does that have to do with the special election payment that we're talking about if it was a 2019 qualifying document?
Sir, if you're going to do a special election, you know the statute states that you're supposed to fill out certain papers. My stuff was already on file. You failed to file properly those documents with the
And you weren't concerned about whether it was correct in 2019 when you ran for council?
It was correct.
It was correct. And so you're saying that because they relied on 2019 documents were correct, if they're incorrect?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that you should be consistent.
Okay. So they filed correct documents in 2019, and because they relied on those, you're saying they made an incorrection? That they were incorrect?
Once again, Mr. Mayor, my paperwork is reflected at City Hall. The last time I qualified, I am not requalifying. This is a recall election. They're two different types of things.
Okay, and the city clerk, did you use his 2019 qualifying papers?
In his 2019 qualifying papers, he prints his name how he wants it on the ballot.
Yes, I
So he
understand.
put Damien H. Gilliams.
Correct.
But this recall question that is on the ballot, it's very clear what's happening. Should Damien Gilliams be recalled from Sebastian City Council?
Yes.
There's not two
There's only one Damian Gilliams on the Sebastian City
Mr.
Council.
Mayor, we just had a lawsuit where
So-
somebody missed 5 acres and they forgot to advertise it properly. And when you do a petition and you do something that you follow through on, what I'm saying here is...
You're grappling.
What I'm saying here is this ballot is incorrect. There are 2 Damien Gilliams in this community. My documents at City Hall reflect Damien H. Gilliams, and this staff here failed to properly deliver the proper information to the supervisor of elections and proofread it as well. Let me move on, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
because this
I
is
hope you will.
This is something we'll deal with at a later date. Let me proceed.
I have to ask you a question in a minute.
So, Mr. City Manager, it is very clear, the way I read the documents, and I know that you're going to say that you have the authority to follow the judge's order, which is fine, and you have the right to read the Florida statute differently. We also have laws here at the City of Sebastian. That's why they're in place. We have ordinances in place. And when we set something for the city manager not to exceed $25,000, you should, out of respect, either put it on the agenda thereafter so we're all noticed and let us know what you're doing, and you failed to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor. Charles might have a few more questions, and then I might finish up later.
All right.
Thank you.
I have no further questions.
Okay. And you didn't call this meeting so that Councilmember Gilliams could ask his questions, did you?
I absolutely did not.
Thank you. And I want to read this once again, just so, first of all, Councilmember Paris, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yes, I do remember it was my attorney, I believe, but it was also public record to answer your question, Mayor, as to where I got the information about Leslie's letter. I'd like to ask the city manager about the terms on the invoice. Does it say due on receipt, or could we have waited 30 days to pay it?
I think, could you have waited 30 days to pay that invoice, Mr. City Manager?
That I don't know where it gives us the opportunity to wait 13 days. Florida statute has a quick payment law, but
Yeah.
so I don't know what the difference would have been paying it 30 days from now or 10 days from now, or 10 days, 2 days later. I don't understand.
It still had to be paid.
You got to pay it so that she can fund the
I
election.
understand it had to be paid. I was just asking about the terms of the invoice.
Yeah.
Well, she needs the funds to run the election, so I would say she has to have it prior to her expending funds to run the election.
Do you have anything else?
49,000. No, thank you. I'm through.
Councilmember Hill, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, sir.
Okay. I just want to reiterate before we get out of this that all this stuff is meaningless. I'm going to read number 11 again, just so everybody understands it. It is the intent of the legislator that the recall procedure provided in this act, which is 100-361, be uniform statewide. Therefore, all municipal charter and special law provisions which are contrary to the provisions of this act are hereby repealed to the extent of the conflict. The City of Sebastian processed not only the payment, but the petitions under the provisions of this act. And the supervisor of elections scheduled an election under the provisions of this act. And Mr. Carlisle paid the bill under the provisions of this act. He had no choice but pay that. The city didn't schedule. The city doesn't have any control over this election, period. I wholeheartily disagree with Councilmember Gilliam's statement that he doesn't think that that's true. I can't imagine. Even I can read that and understand it, and I'm nowhere near a lawyer.
But
There is, in my opinion, nothing that can be gained by this conversation. I'm not sure exactly why this meeting was even called.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
you were in discussion with Leslie Swan in reference to that letter, right?
I haven't talked to Leslie Swan.
You have not.
No, I have not talked to Leslie Swan.
Okay. Were you aware of the letter?
Do you think I've talked to Leslie
No,
Swan?
I'm just asking, were you aware of the letter?
I heard that there was a letter. I haven't read it.
You heard there was a letter.
It's immaterial, Mr. Gilliams.
Who'd you hear?
This provision in this act, it's what Leslie Swan said in a letter prior to the time that those petitions came to this city are immaterial. The act says that the city clerk will at once do certain things. That's what the act says.
Mr. Swan said that if you could wait one day, they will save the city $40,000 and we can do this election in
Well,
November. And you
I haven't
failed,
seen that
the
from
city
Leslie
staff
Swan,
has
and I
failed,
haven't read her
and you
letter,
blew through
so-
$40,000 of taxpayers' money and you're raising everybody's taxes 13%, and you don't think we should look into this. We should just look the other way.
No, I think we should get on with this recall election.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
Yes, we will, on the 15th day of September. Thank you. And thank you for your arguments tonight. They've helped a lot.
No, they were not arguments. They were just
Okay.
bringing out some
Thank you for
issues
your arguments
that
tonight.
are
They've helped a
concerned
lot.
that people called me about as to why.
Ladies and gentlemen, no further business or for the good of the order that I can see. I'm not going to open this up to public comment because, quite frankly, we don't have any reason for public comment. We haven't proposed anything. All we've done is yell at each other. So thank you for coming. I hope you're not upset that I don't get to talk. Mr. Attorney, should I open it up for public comment? Do you feel like I should?
No.
I'm asking the city
There's not an
attorney.
action item, there's not an actionable item here, so I don't see any reason to do it, Mayor.
It's your call, Mr. Mayor. I don't see why, public can be involved in comments, but we do only have 30 minutes left. That's number one. And number two, if anyone wants to ask me a question, I'm available.
Okay.
I think we should close the meeting.
If you want the truth, I don't see any reason to open up for public comment. I think we've had plenty of stuff set up here tonight that has provided further information to the public. So, thank you guys.
Mr. Mayor,
This meeting is adjourned.